All right, so for those of you that missed class, or for whatever reason that you're watching this, we're going to talk about an introduction to CorelDraw. First off, you get your Windows home screen, and we're going to look for CorelDraw. And there it is under the C's, which makes sense. We'll open it up and start a new drawing. Now, we're not going to talk a lot about paper size and all that first, because we're just going to get to know some of the stuff. But when you look at it, you have choices of all these paper types. We're going to start today with letter. And you can see the sizes there, 8.5 by 11, which we know to be the size. And then we have choices between landscape and portrait. I'll just leave it on landscape today. But like I said, all we're really doing is we're going to learn some of these tools and how the layers work and how the text works. Okay? So, to begin with, we're going to look at starting with, we're just going to draw some squares. Now it's called rectangle tool. So I say square, rectangle's not a square. So let's take a look. Yeah, sure enough, I'm getting a rectangle. I could find a way to draw a square, but let's stick with rectangle. And there it is. There's your rectangle. Now, if I did want a square, so here I am drawing another rectangle, I'd prefer a square. We're going to hold down the control key, and you're going to get to know the control key. It makes a perfect square. And there it is. So we have a rectangle and a perfect square. Okay? And you can see the pick tool picks which one I'm going to move or work with at the time. So before I get too far into that, we're going to do some circles. It's called ellipse tool. And again, I've said circle, and you probably know where I'm heading with that. There's an ellipse. Looks like an egg or whatever you'd like to create with an ellipse, and you create it. If you're trying to create a circle, you've got ellipse, you hold the control down, and you get a perfect circle. All right? Whoops. Be careful. There's my perfect circle. So I don't want this guy. You can see I can click them all. I'll just click him and hit delete. It's that simple with the program. So now I have 4 shapes. Okay? Now what these guys do, when I click on one of them, you can see all these nodes around the outside. What do they do? What do these little buttons do? Well, the corner ones make things smaller or bigger and stay relative. So the circle has not changed. Smaller and bigger, staying relative to its original shape. Okay? So that's what the corner ones do. What do the side ones do? Well, they change the shape. They will make it wider or thinner. And that's changed the shape. It's no longer relative. Okay, so the corner ones, bigger or smaller, making it relative. Side ones, changing the shape forever. So there you go. Now, that's not all we're dealing with. If we double click on the object, we get more stuff. This time arrows. Arrows heading in all kinds of directions. The arrows on the top and side are skew arrows. You can see we skew, and now we have a parallelogram. Guess it always was a parallelogram. And you can see that's what it does. It skews the object one way or the other. So that object's wrecked. It's never the same as it was before. Okay? The corner ones, they're rotation arrows. And you can see it spins it around. Now as you can see up here, so I highlight that, those are the actual numbers. If you rotate, you can see those numbers moving, and there's so many decimal places, which means I have no idea what I've rotated that. So that's a bit of a drag. But if we hold the control key down, and we talk about this again, it moves in 15-degree increments. I'm going to delete that square and build a new one, just so I can show you that that starts at 0, and you can see that says 0. And when I double click it to rotate and hold control, it moves 15 degrees at a time. And you can change that number to something else, but it's nice at 15 degrees. So if I do rotate it 30 degrees and then change my mind, I can just rotate it back to 0. Not much complication. So that's how we rotate and pick and move our objects around. And you can see that's what I'm doing. One more little tidbit with the rotation and the skew. This guy here is your center point of rotation. If I move it to a corner, you can see the change in rotation. I can even move it outside somewhere, and my rotation changes again. You can see how neat that is. Okay. Now, we have 4 objects. We want to talk about fill and outline now. So let's go down here to fill. So we pick an object and then we go to fill. Fill has all these options, okay? The first option is fill color dialog box. It's really just the color you're going to fill it with. So here we go, and go up the chart and pick this kind of blue purpley color right there. And there you go, it fills it in. That's solid color. The second one is a fountain fill. You have options of radial fountain fill or conical. You can choose colors to fit your school colors. And you say okay. And you can see what it's done. It's gone from the yellow to the blue with a bit of a fountain fill. The third one is a pattern fill. And under pattern fill, you have things like brick that you can fill it with. So that's kind of neat. The fourth fill is my favorite, and it gives you all kinds of options. Like, look at that one. Now, you can change colors on those. So I can go back here and say, well, I need more of a blue in there. And you do that, and you get more of a blue in your object. So that's kind of neat. You can see all the different fills. Now, fill takes place over here, and when you open it, you can see there's an X. So what's going on there? That's no fill. Whenever you see an X, boom. So you can see that's an empty box. You can see through it. Different than a white fill, which we'll talk about in a bit. Okay, let's go back and, well, let's fill it a different way. You know the fills over here, your fill tool. There's a default. The default is to just come over here, over to the color palette along the side and click a color you like. So that was simple. We're going to click colors for all these boxes while we work on them. White's no good. And there. So now they have different colors, all found by going over here and clicking default. So that's neat. And that's fill. Okay? Now, let's talk about outline. Outline is above fill. That's called outline tool. And when you open it, you see these options of size. Let's say I increase the size, so maybe you'll understand what I'm talking about by outline. So there's your outline. Okay, so let's go back to this one. And you can click X. We know what X means, no outline. So there's no outline on there anymore. And let's click an outline for this guy. And there we go. Now, how do we change the color? The second box in is an outline color dialog box. We click on it, we change our color, and we say OK. So that changed that outline color. And let's change this outline color to a reddish color and say OK. So you can see we can change the outline colors. Now, just like fill, outline has defaults, and it's the same color palette by the right button. So you can see I'm changing the outline by clicking on the right button. We also have X, which means no outline, which you can do by clicking that, and there you go. So now we just have 4 solid boxes with 4 different colors. And now you've seen what fill and outline can do. Now, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about layering. So what I mean by layering, first off, let's say I want a background. I've got these colors are all sitting on white. I want to create a background. And when we create a background, what I want you to do is use the box and make a box the same size as the page. And then you use your default to create your background. So there's my background. Things are looking good. It really doesn't appear to be a background right now, does it? Because it's really over top of everything else. You can see they're hiding under there. So what do we do about that? Well, that's where layering comes in. Now, all the layers on CorelDraw are on the same page, which makes it really nice. They're all just there. You just got to tell which object belongs in which layer. So this one doesn't belong there. So we're going to go to Arrange. If you drop down the menu at Arrange, you'll see you have lots of options. One of them is Order. Order is like you saying, I order you to the front, to the back, or to go somewhere else, or to go home. We don't want you. So we're going to order this guy to the back. And once we do that, all these other guys come up front. Now we're trying to create maybe a logo with this assignment. I want you to create your own personal logo or a company logo. So these objects are all going to interact with each other. And we need to know what layer they're all going to be on. So right now, this big green one, I'm going to make it huge, but I want it to be out the back. But if I go to the very back, it'll disappear behind the blue. So I'm going to say go back behind this. So anything you choose for it to go behind, it will go behind. So right now, the yellow one is behind it. What if I want it right out front? Then I go order to the front. Okay? I'm going to make that thinner, but I'm going to make it longer. It's going to be kind of maybe where we put a name or something. Who knows? We don't know yet. That black box, I'd like it to overlap the yellow. I'm going to go order in front of the yellow. And there it is. So that's layering. As you can see, it all worked. I'm going to get rid of the background now because we don't need it anymore when I create my logo. But that's how layering works. Now they all have proper layers. So we can go ahead and use shapes. We can manipulate shapes now. We can color them. We can outline them. We can tell them where they go and what layer they belong on. So that's good. We're almost ready. What we're going to add is text. So we're going to go over here to the text box. Now there's two ways to create text. Lots of people know about paragraph boxes and they just start typing into the paragraph box. Well, that's not what we want to do here. That's great for setting up magazine articles and things, but when we're playing with an artistic drawing, we want to create something else. And it's called artistic text. Now, that's me setting up a default text. Arial Black is on every computer, so I go to Arial Black. Let's show you again. We're at text. I go find Arial Black and tell the computer that that'll be my default. Good. So now I click on my text, and instead of making a paragraph box, I just click the left button. And it says, okay, it's saying go ahead and type. And you can go ahead and type. Now that's an artistic text, and what it means is I can play with it, manipulate it. You know what? We can't see that very well, can we? So here's something I haven't talked about yet. Our zoom tool. So over here on the left is a zoom tool. And it brings up all these options here, and there's a plus and a minus. I like the one where that's always on a default, and it means I can make a box around something I want to zoom up. So I'm going to take the text over here somewhere, and I'm going to zoom the area so I can work better with the text. Anytime you want to go back to the page, this is a great one here. It's called Zoom to Page, and back you go. All right? Perfect. That's zoom. Let's go back to text. Now I've created this text, and you can see artistic text, what it means is it's now an object, which is fantastic because we can make it bigger and smaller like we did with our objects. We can make it longer or shorter. We have the ability to rotate the text. These are all awesome things. We also get to default the text. We get to default the outline. Sorry. So now we have our text, and we want to give it let's give it a fancy fill. You guys remember the fancy fills. Let's go over here and click into the fancy fills and say yes. Does that look good or what? Default no outline, so it looks even cooler. Maybe it does need an outline. I'm going to outline it in black. So there it is, and we're ready to put it in our logo. Now because I can wait a minute, what are you saying? You're probably saying, what kind of company is that? So we want to change our text because it doesn't make sense. There's two ways to do that. One is to go to the font and right inside and just start changing it to something that does make sense. So that makes way more sense. No, I'm hearing that it doesn't. Okay. So let's go to text the other way. I want to show you the second way to fix font. Go to text, edit text, and there it is. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to call our company Sunshine. I'll cap lock it. It all depends what looks good and what doesn't. Sunshine. We all like sunshine. And there it is. Sunshine is the name of our company. I'm going to make it a little more. There we go. And we're ready to throw it in. I might say, you know what? Double click, rotate, and just work on getting it perfectly rotated to fit this design I've got going on. It's not easy, but that's what we work at things for. And we get it to where we want it, and we're all happy. So there it is, and I put it in there. Maybe that's the place I want it. Maybe not. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to put it back up here. I don't really want that look. I'm going to undo. Undo is a great key to get to know. And bring it back to flat and bring it back up here. Okay, there it is. One little neat thing that text can do, and I want to show you right now, I have this circle in this font, and I would love them to match. Okay, so I'm going to pull these guys away from now, just for now. So I have this circle and this text. I'm going to group both of them together and go to text. And I'm going to fit the text to the path. You can see what it's done. In here I have all kinds of options on how it's going to look. And I can play with those things off to the side, back to the front, change a bunch of different things. I like that. That's going to be good. I'm going to, wait, it's all one object, so I can't bring it in like I'd like to. So what we do is we go to Arrange, and you've been there before. Go to Arrange, and we're going to break the text apart. And by doing that, I can now move that inside, which I really want. And I'm going to make that yellow with a yellow outline. I'll make this blue, and we'll change the look of our logo. The pieces come back in, and I'm on my way. Let's bring that red to the front. So what we've talked about at this stage now is how to create layers, how to fill boxes, outline boxes, and how to do text. Now I just want to talk about one more thing, and it's group. These guys are all individual objects, and right now I don't want that sunshine to change. I'm going to find that perfect spot for it. There it is. I'm going to grab these two objects now. I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to group them. So from now on, that's one object while I move it around with the other guys. Okay? So that's perfect. I'll put that at the very back of my logo, arrange, and order it to the back. The other pieces are going to come in. I don't know yet how I'm going to do that. You guys will come up with that answer in creating your logo. But I'm on my way. And I've talked about everything you need to know to get this done. I want to talk about one more thing before we finish, because we are finished, but I want to send this to the teacher. So you're ready to, hey, this is my final logo. The best way to do that is to create a JPEG. It's the best way to bring it into your other drawings, and it's the best way to carry it on the USB stick or anything else. A JPEG will interact with all other programs, where a CDR save drawing isn't as good at doing that. So what we do before we finish up, we go to File, Export, go down here and choose JPEG. You have all kinds of options with this program that you can export it as. We're going to choose JPEG. I will call it Logo. You will save it in your drive. I'm going to save it in mine, called Logo, Export. Now, at this stage of our beginning CorelDraw info, we're not going to get into all this stuff. You're going to say OK. And then again, you're going to say OK. All right? So now let's take a quick look. We're going to go to My Drive, Date Modified, and we've got a logo. And there's our logo, finished and ready to go. That'll import into other drawings, and we're into our movie projects we're doing if you want to create a title page for that. And everything will look fantastic. So next time maybe show up to class and you won't have to watch this, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and that's the end.